Hello, everyone, and welcome to the HqO Prism Tenant training for the Chicago Aon Center. My name is Kaylee Culbertson, and I am part of the HqO training team here at JLLT. And today I'm also joined by Ryan Pierce, who is the Prism software expert. So today, what we're doing today, we're going to have a two-part training. The first part is for HqO. So everybody on this call is going to learn something new about the new HqO Tenant app. We're going to give you a quick overview of what HqO is, and then I'm going to jump in and give you a software demo on my mobile phone of exactly what it does. From there, we'll have a little short break, and then anyone who is not a tenant administrator can drop off the call, and we'll be turning it over to Ryan at that point to do the Prism training for the tenant administrators. So I want to thank everybody for joining on this call. Just a quick housekeeping item. I do have everybody on mute right now, but absolutely want everyone to feel free to ask questions. You can either unmute your phone or you can just type the question in the chat, and I'll be monitoring that throughout our training today. All right, so just a quick overview about HqO. The official launch for HqO, the mobile app, is next Wednesday. That's January 17th. And there's a couple different ways you can access HqO. The primary one is through the mobile app. So you'll notice here on Getting Started, you can access either through Google Play or the App Store if you're an iPhone user. And you're going to look for Aon Center Experience. You can see here on this little image right here, we've got Aon Center Experience, and there is a little icon of the Aon Center. Once you have it downloaded here, you'll notice it's a little bit, it's very similar to the existing Aon Center app, which is to the left of it, but you'll notice the new one has EXP for Experience. So that's the one that you're going to use for HqO. Shortly in the near future here, this other one here, this will be sunset and go away, but for the time being, you may have both of them. And I don't want anybody to get confused when they see two very similar looking icons. Now, the property management team, they're going to be sending you communications here over the coming weeks here. You're going to have this QR code. So even if you forgot to type in Aon Center Experience, you could just take a little picture of this QR code and your phone's going to take you directly into the App Store to find and download the appropriate app. Once you have the app installed, you're going to enter in your work email address. From there, you're going to be able to pick the building. So select Chicago Aon Center for your building, and then you're going to create your password. You're going to agree to some standard just terms and conditions for using the app. And then looking at step number 6, expect an email from HqO that's going to have a verification code. Now, I just want to make sure that there's not anybody who shouldn't be accessing the app. So they're going to send you a code, 4-digit code. You just plug that in, and voila, you've got the app installed and you've got your new user account set up in HqO. Now, some folks have also been asking, can we access HqO from the desktop? Maybe you don't want to necessarily use it on the phone, or maybe you want to use it on both the phone and the desktop on your laptop or your work computer. You can also do that by going to the aoncenter.hqo.com. You can see the URL listed above here. And then the desktop has the same features and functions as the mobile app, and it looks very similarly. It's just spread out a lot more. So you'll see that here we've got our tiles and all of our utility buttons here that we'll get into and talk about at more length here shortly. Now, don't worry if you didn't get a chance to jot that down. We are going to have a user guide. And again, the property team is going to be sending out communications that have that QR code as well as the website address. All right, so last thing before I get into the demonstration itself, just a little bit of nomenclature here. When we get in, the primary thing we're going to be spending most of our time is exploring these buttons. We call these in HqO our utility buttons. Now, looking at the first two for visitor registration and work order requests, the visitor registration, if you're somebody who is in CloudGate, you're used to registering visitors for your company, then you're going to be able to see that button and get in and register visitors through HqO or through CloudGate. The work order request, That gives you the ability to submit a work order directly through HqO. And then that work order goes into Prism, the work order management system for the property team to complete that work. Looking at amenities, you're going to be able to learn about different building services, amenity spaces, retail lobby, that kind of thing. Everybody's going to be able to see that soapbox. So soapbox contains all of the various amenity spaces that are available for either a half day or full day reservation. Security office and property management office, you're going to see in the app that those are some buttons that allow you to quickly call out to either the security office or the property management team. And then we'll dive into Order Ahead, which is a order ahead service similar to Uber Eats, but it's powered by a software or tool called Ritual. And transit is a great way to check on transit times for trains, buses, Lyfts, Ubers, even e-scooters, all of that. Last but not least, our app support. As you're using the app, if you run into any issues, you can submit a ticket through the app support, and that's going to get handled by the JLLT support team. If they need to, they'll escalate it to our property management folks or to HqO. All right, so without further ado here, let me go ahead and let's take a look at the app itself. All right, so here we are. If you can see my phone screen here. If you're an Apple user, you're accustomed to this. You've got your screens with your various apps on your home pages here. And then as we saw in the picture, I've got the Aon Center EXP or Aon Center Experience app already installed. So let's go ahead and launch that app. Once we go into the app here, you can see all, before I get into the utility buttons here, or the Explore utility buttons, let's just kind of scroll through and we'll take a look at all of the useful content information that's available here. So you're going to see regular updates, monthly updates, weekly updates, even for different sweepstakes. So here, if you want to enter to win for something like that, or even a trivia. It's very topical. So we have a Martin Luther King Jr. trivia. There are actual prizes. So this particular trivia is offering gift cards for $50, $75, and $100 for the winners. Security information here, you can access the life safety videos are available right here. You've got a little description there and then a action button to launch the video itself. So once you get in there, you'll be able to click around and it's pretty intuitive interface here. It's not going to take long at all to get used to it. You got your parking garage information, and then there's some exclusive deals, trending now health and wellness information, as well as information on the Peak Fitness Center and classes that are available. I don't want to forget about this option down here for engagement, as there's a lot of additional information that you might find useful in there. We've got information on, if you need a catering, you can contact the community manager at the property here, featured restaurants. And then just to get back to that homepage, we just tap on home. All right, so let's get into our utility buttons. Here we are, we have our visitor registration. So I'm going to go ahead and tap that one. And again, don't forget, if you don't see this when you log in, I don't want you to panic. That just means that your tenant administrator is managing the registrations for you. And so if you needed access to that in the future, you would work with them to be able to do that. So here you can see any upcoming registrations that I might have, or any past reservations are also listed there. I'm going to go ahead and start a new registration. And we've got, type in the first name here. We're bringing in a magician His name is Diamond Jim, and if you have the email address, you can put that in there. It's not required, but by putting in the email address, that will send the information to your guest, right? CloudGate will send the QR code and information for accessing the building. So I do recommend it if you have the email to put that in there, but if you don't have to put that in there. And then from here, you can put in, he's coming for an event here, any check instructions. Otherwise, we'll go to step 2. And this particular person, we're planning a Valentine's Day party. So there's our visitor date for the 14th. The start and the end time, those are optional. And we'll go ahead and submit that request. Once the request is processed, like I mentioned, it's going to send you an email as the host, letting you know that your request is in the system. And then it will also send an email to the guest so long as you put that email address. And voila, there we have the information. If we need to, we can always cancel the visit, but otherwise it looks good to me. All right, from here, we're going to go back here and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to submit a work order request. And as I mentioned before, the work order request and the visitor registration buttons may not be visible to all of us on this call, but our tenant admins, you will be able to see that here. So I'm going to go ahead and submit a work order request. Here you can see my open request here, or if I wanted to, I could also access any of my previously submitted requests. I have a full history of all my different requests. I'm going to go ahead and add a new request. We'll select our issue type here. So you've got all of our different types, whether it be a landscaping issue, parking, roof issues, that sort of thing. There we go. And then a description. And in our office, we have pets running around. So I've got a stinky dog that hangs out with me all day long. So we're going to request that the property team give him a bath here. Now, when you're doing your work orders, you know what they say, a picture speaks 1,000 words. So you can always go in and take a picture of the issue. And this is Chewbacca. He's a little shy there. There we go. We'll attach that, and that will go to the property team when they're looking at the work order. Last but not least, when you're selecting the location, you're going to select the suite. Now, one caveat, a lot of the common spaces that are on the property are going to show up here. So you might have to scroll a little bit until you find your suite. In this case, we've got an issue in the women's restroom. So I'm going to select that, and then we'll go ahead and submit the request. So what this submission does is going to trigger an email, let you know that you've submitted the request. It's also going to go to the property team. So they've got a system that they're going to be able to track all the open and closed work orders. Right now, the request, you'll notice that it is in a pending request. Communication between the property can happen via this comment icon. So let's say they send a note back to you, you'll get a notification, and you can also add notes this way. All right, so we'll go back, and like I said, now you've got your open requests right here. As they get completed or in progress, you'll notice the status of that work order will update. All right, amenities, let's take a look at that again. The amenities button, this is going to be visible to everyone who has the app. You can get information about the shuttle bus, which just quick plug for the property team, that's no longer that's free now. So if you're somebody that uses the shuttle bus, kudos to the property team for making that a free service. So you can access shuttle bus information. You can also go in and get information about parking or car wash information, lobby retail, and then just a quick overview of some of our cloud level amenities. Under Soapbox. So Soapbox, this gives you the ability to request use of one of the Soapbox rooms. So let's dive into that. So as you know, there's a lot of different conference rooms and smaller rooms that can be used for a half day or a full day rental.
I
So
have
when
a
you're going to,
question.
sure,
Is this something that's only visible to certain people as well? Like the visitor
this,
registration? Yeah, because when I'm on it, it's not showing me as well. It's saying something's wrong.
okay. Yeah, we are actually, since we're going live next week, we're in the process of this week making sure that all of you are loaded into the system so that you do see, so you don't get that error.
Okay,
But
thank
to
you.
answer your question, yes, this one is going to be visible to everybody. But what will happen is if you're somebody who's not a tenant administrator, you're going to make a request. It's going to be pending, and then your tenant admin has to approve it. Right? Since it costs the company money to use those spaces, it'll go through that process.
Okay, thank
Excellent
you.
question. Yeah, and thanks for diving in. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and first thing I'll do is select when I want to use that space. And as I mentioned here, we're planning a Halloween party. We're planning a Valentine's Day party. So let's go ahead and reserve it for the 14th. Date and time, this is optional. I'm going to go ahead and just skip that for now. This is something that we can adjust once we see what spaces are available. And typically, when you look at this, you're normally going to be able to see a picture of the space. A lot of times when I'm doing my Teams meetings, it doesn't show up. So no worries. I'll go ahead and select Cumulus North because it can hold 40 people, and I'm expecting a big turnout for my party here, but you can see the different capacities for each of the spaces, whether it be 6, 8, 14, or 40, or even more. Let me give it just another couple seconds here. It's being a little shy. We got a lot of people on the call now. Let's try that again. All right, so now you have your space pulled up, and as I mentioned before, once you get into the space that you want, you'll notice all of the open time. You can also select it using a slider. So that's just a couple different ways, either using the time picker right here or just adjusting the slider. Notice when you're looking at the spaces, and just a reminder for folks who have used the spaces, they're open from 8 to 5. And you can make them in half day reservations from 8 to noon or from 1 to 5 or a full day. The pricing for the spaces is going to be in the descriptions here, as well as any of the different amenities. So in this case, we're going to go ahead and I'd like to get the space for the morning session, half day session here. So we'll go ahead and select 8 to noon. Terms and conditions for using this space, those are available if you want to read over those. From here, we'll go ahead and book it. And then depending on the space, if it's a larger space, oftentimes you can configure the room layout, right? So let's say you want a theater style, if it's more of a lecture type of thing or classroom style. In this case, we'll go ahead and do a meeting space since we're doing more of a party here. We want to be able to set up different tables. So we'll select our little meeting squares. And then from here, you're going to select either if you need the full day, you'll notice that the half day is automatically selected. So again, you have to at least book it for a half day. If I did want this for the full day, I would just simply select the full day. And then you'll notice that the total amount populates down here at the bottom. So for this full day room, it's going to be $500 or $350 for my half day. And from here, we'll go ahead and complete booking. I'll do a quick verification. Everything looks good here. I'm going to go ahead and make sure I agree to the terms and conditions and then book it. And once I book this, now we have a booking that's requested. And as I mentioned before, I make the request. My tenant administrator, the office manager, whoever that is for my company, they're going to go ahead and approve that request in Prism. And then from there, the property team, they will put it on the calendar and reach out to you if they need to do any other coordination for that space for you. Okay. And once we go in there, just like with our work order statuses, any of our upcoming ones, in this case, we've got an upcoming one, and right now it's pending. Once my office manager or my tenant administrator approves it, then it'll show up there as no longer pending. All right, real quick here, as I mentioned before, the security office and the property management office options here, this is a quick phone call. So by tapping that button gives me the capability to launch a phone call to either of those phone numbers. And I'm not going to bother Catherine right now or Mark on our security team, so I'm not going to actually make a call. Looking over here, we also have order ahead. And as I mentioned, this is a nice service similar to, say, DoorDash or Uber Eats, where you can easily see local restaurants around the Aon Center. Maybe I want to filter for some healthy eats. It is the new year after all. All right, to see the kind of offerings here, we'll select maybe a protein bar here. And then for each of the restaurants, you can view their various menus and make your ordering selections there. Now, to really fully utilize this and actually check out and get a delivery or a pickup, you would need to set up an account with Ritual, but it's a pretty easy process to do that in the app here. And then you can see you've got your cart total and so forth. What's nice about this too is Ritual is really good if, there's multiple people in the office. A lot of times the restaurants, they'll just collect all the orders and deliver them together. The transit option, as I mentioned before, this gives you the ability to see rail information, bus information, cars. Right now, we're looking at everything on here. We've got our weather, a little chilly there in Chicago. We can filter, let's say we know we're taking the bus today. The Chicago Transit Authority bus lines here, or maybe the rails. You can see all the different lines that are coming up. Or maybe you just want to take a quick Lyft or Uber to the airport. You can pull that information up here to see the wait time. And then, as I mentioned, app support. If you have any issues with the app, you can submit a ticket through the app support area. The JLLT support team is going to be triaging those. So we'll take the tickets. If we can't resolve it, then we'll escalate it to the property team or to the appropriate party for fixing this. Phew, that was a lot. So I think we got through everything that I wanted to show. So I'll go ahead and just take a moment to pause and answer any questions that you might have.
Yes, I did have a question. As far as booking like a visitor, because I know on the old app you could, like, if I'm not, so say if I register someone that's going to come in and visit one of the executives in the office, I put it in under mine because they don't have one, and I'll put it under them, but I'll add their email address, so then when that person comes in, they're notified that that person's there. Do we still have that same ability?
We don't through the HqO app. That might
Okay.
be possible. I know this Mark Anderson with the security team, he's been working to get CloudGate. There might be that feature in that software. So HqO is actually integrating with that CloudGate tool, and CloudGate has a lot more features and function. HqO is great for, somebody you want to get a quick visitor registered, but it doesn't have all of the bells and whistles that you might
Okay.
get with CloudGate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, Kaylee, it's Mark. Yes, through CloudGate, you will have that ability to add another person's email as part of the registration. So
Okay.
it'll provide the notification.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
And then I saw, Rick, you have a good question there. I will actually, that is a unique scenario, not completely unique. So basically we have somebody who's using HQ at another property. So that's actually something I'll have to let HqO know about. So let me get I'm gonna make a note. We'll get you added to that to Aon Center as well. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That kind
Thank-
of information is critically important to us. So Rick, thank you for sharing that. And if anybody else has a situation like that, if you could bring that to our attention, that would be really helpful. Thanks,
And Rick,
everybody.
what company are you with?
Yeah. Aon Corporation.
Aon. Okay, thanks so much. Okay, other questions? All right, and then so we're recording this training, so we'll have a recording of the training for some of your colleagues who may not have been able to join today. We also have a repeat session tomorrow, so this is 2 of 3 sessions that we're offering this week. And we also have a PDF document that will be provided that'll cover a lot of this information. All right, well, this concludes the first half or part 1 of our training. So again, this was HqO, applies to everybody on this call. If you're not a tenant administrator, office manager type, and you're not going to be using Prism or approving resource requests, feel free to drop off. And thank you so much for your time. If you are a tenant administrator and you know who you are, I want you to hang on, and we're going to start the second half here in just a minute. All right, I will turn it over to Ryan for the prison section. And great question came in. Yes, we are going to go live on the 17th. You can download it now, but it's not. We're still working out a few things like some of those button issues that you ran into. But yes, the 17th is the official launch date.
Great, thanks, Kaylee. I'm going to share my screen, and just give me 1 second here. I'm going to just find the tab that this is in. All right, I should be sharing my screen. If somebody can confirm that they can see my screen, that would be awesome.
Looks great.
All right. So this is Prism. I just want to give everybody an overview here. I am impersonating a tenant admin here in Prism. So this is going to be the view that tenant admins, when they log into Prism, see moving forward. So before we take a look at reservations, I always just like to go over the dashboard real quickly. The dashboard is going to pull work orders, resource reservations. There's some other tiles on here, but you will have a home screen where you'll be able to see data pulling from these different modules. So to get into resource reservations, as you saw earlier when Kaylee was doing the demo of HqO, the reservations, when you are submitting them through HqO, are going to be feeding into Prism, and you and the tenant admin roles will be responsible for viewing those reservation requests coming over and approving them in Prism. So to do that, let me just go back and make sure I'm doing this slowly here. If there are reservations for you to approve, you get notified that a reservation request has been submitted. You want to go to the Resource Reservations tab here, and then within that tab, there is an Approvals tab. So you want to make sure you select that. And then I'm just going to clear my filters here. And then you'll see that we have one that was canceled, but then we have one that's pending. And this is the one that Kaylee had submitted in the first half of this call. So what I recommend doing is you'll see some of the information around the reservation right here in this grid, who requested it, reservation name, what space it's for, and any cost. I would recommend going in and viewing it first. So when you open up the view, click that view button, you're going to be presented this page where you're going to see some of the finer details, when, location. We have, photos and stuff set up for these resources. So you'll be able to see a photo of the space as well as any sort of description that might be in there. There's the floor setup that we selected. So there's that sort of map that shows you the floor layout and has the max people number. And then down below, you're going to see $350. So there's that half-day rate for Cumulus. So there's that $350. So you'll want to just make sure that you're reviewing any sort of costs. And then also down below, if there's any sort of attachments, with this particular reservation space, you'll be able to see those different. And there's an image of the of Cumulus right there. So you'll be able to see some of those attachments down below. If everything looks good, what you will do is you will go out of this screen and you will go back to the approvals tab. And that one that's pending is the one that we just reviewed. You're going to check the little box next to requested by. And then you're going to have the option to either approve it or deny it. So approving it will push it up to the property management team. They'll get an alert that a reservation has been submitted by company A in this case, and they can then approve it and then it'll get added to the calendar. However, if you need to deny the reservation request for any sort of reason, you can deny it and then it won't be pushed up to the property management team and it'll just go into a canceled state. So I'll just click approved just to show this next step. When you select approved or denied, it's just going to ask you a reason for, well, in this case, it's going to ask you a reason for denial or notes. These are optional, but sometimes it's nice just to include like an additional comment here as to why you're denying it or approving it. But you'll just mark approve. And then there you go. It'll take a second there. Yep, reservation approved. And then what's going to happen here is it should notify somebody on the property management team. I forget who the contacts are, but they'll be alerted that a reservation's been approved and will be added to the calendar. And let me just see here if I can show this. There we go. February 14th. There's our reservation at Cumulus North, and you can go in and just see it on the calendar from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. Any questions on resource reservations in Prism? Anything that I can speak to or go back to clarify on?
I have a question, Ryan.
Sure.
When should tenant administrators expect login information for Prism?
Well, I'll seek the input of the property management team, but I was expecting us to, go live. We would be sending the welcome emails out on the 17th, but if we want to do that sooner too, it takes me only a matter of seconds to send the welcome emails out. So it advised me on that, but I was originally planning on the 17th, but.
Yeah, we are planning to send that all out on the 17th.
Okay. So just for the folks on the call, the welcome email will come from Building Engines. It's very easy. You're going to click the link in that email and you're just going to set up your password and then you will have access to Prism. So just keep in mind, that's what you'll be on the lookout for. It takes only a couple seconds for you to set up your password and get access to the system. And then one other thing that I want to mention too, so you guys are all aware of this, is work orders. So you won't be creating work orders in Prism, but you will have access to the work order module. So Kaylee had shown the example of the smelly dog on during her demo there. There's that work orders there from 20 minutes ago. You'll be able to view all the work orders submitted. So just want to make sure you're all aware of that any work orders that are created in HqO will be fed into the Prism work order grid for your appropriate company. So you won't be able to see work orders for other companies, only the ones that are created by your company and going through the app. So you'll be able to see all those work orders here in the work order grid. And if you clear your filters, you'll be able to see all the work orders. So even ones that are closed out or completed, and regardless of how old they are, they'll be stored in Prism. So, a year from now, if you need to look up a work order from January of this year, you'll be able to, find that work order by, using the filters and stuff. You can filter down by who it was assigned to or issue types, things like that, and locate the work order that you are tracking.
Hey Ryan,
Any
it's Rick
questions?
with Ann. Yeah, it's Rick with Ann Corporation. How many administrators can be added for approvals?
How many administrators would, so there really is no set number. At the moment, anybody in the administrator role, so anybody with access to Prism, will have the ability to review and approve reservations.
Perfect.
Now, I do want to say this: we are looking to set up notification roles for the tenant admin. So I don't know if this is every tenant admin that's in the system that would be a part of this role. Let me know. But when a reservation comes through, it notifies people in that contact role that a reservation's been approved, so they receive an email, for example, that a reservation's been submitted. I'm assuming I'm guessing that's your question, is how many people are on the receiving end of that message. But
Correct.
in terms of approving reservations, anybody with the tenant admin role is able to review and approve reservations. But we can tweak the specific people who get notified, though, if that's what you'd like to do.
Good to know. Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions? Okay, great. I will stop sharing and can go.
All right. Well, appreciate everyone's time today. We'll stick on the call for another minute or so, but otherwise have a great week.